What's going on, everyone? It is the Durf. He might be gone, but he will never be forgotten. Ozzy Osbourne, rest in peace. This is my Blizzard of Oz Prismatic Warlock because I think we can all agree Ozzy Osbourne absolutely would have been a Warlock if he had played Destiny with us all today. This build features Arc, Solar, and Stasis all in one convenient to use build with a fan favorite exotic and a fan favorite exotic weapon as well that you can take advantage of some bonus damage thanks to our new armor stats. We're going to go through it all, unbox it all. This build arguably now is even more powerful than it was in previous seasons because of the way the armor works now. We're going to get into it, guys. Hope you like this build. Let's get it started. Get started on our Blizzard of Oz tribute build. I think first and foremost, we need to agree on one thing and one thing only. If Ozzy Osbourne had played Destiny, he would have 1000% been a Prismatic Warlock. Now that we've gotten the obvious out of the way, let's get into it. Our super of choice is going to be one of two things: Storm Trance or Winter's Wrath. A tertiary option would be Song of Flame. However, we're going to be going with a roaming super so we can proc it more often. And I think Electricity best describes Ozzy Osbourne because he was nothing if but electric 100% of the time in all of his music. So, Storm Trance gets the nod for me. I also like its ability to chain lightning, so popping it in the middle of a portal activity or possibly a higher end activity, you can still regain it and it still does decent damage for what we're going to be using it for. And I think what edges this out over Winter's Wrath is when we get to our fragments. For abilities, we're going to be going with Phoenix Dive, a quick dive to the ground, cures you in a mending solar light, as well as cures nearby allies, which is going to be helpful. Health is going to be at a premium in higher end content. The jump doesn't matter, but I prefer Burst Glide. Incinerator Snap. Ozzy Osbourne was 100% fire 100% of the times, even in his very last concert appearance. Still fire even while sitting down, so Incinerator Snap gets the nod, not to mention it's going to pair beautifully with things once we get to our artifact. For our grenade, Storm Grenade is going to be 100% necessary to take advantage of our exotic armor, which I'm going to get into, as well as the changes to the stats and all those other things that people are going to be wondering about in a build like this. But Storm Grenade, we're not going to be chucking it, we're going to be consuming it. While we have our Storm Grenade consumed, we're going to be activating Devour with our first aspect, Feed the Void. Defeat any target with any ability to activate Devour. Your Devour effects are improved, restoring additional health and grenade energy. It's going to be a constant cycle of gaining additional health as well as grenade energy, for which we are going to keep spamming in any activity that we find ourselves in. Next up, we're going to be equipping the Bleak Watcher. The Bleak Watcher aspect, of course, as most of you know, was reduced from 3 fragment slots to 2. We're not going to let that get in the way of our tribute here to Ozzy, because we are going to be taking advantage of not 1 but 2 turrets, and the ability to spawn up to 4 turrets in a single little phase without much effort is going to be a regular for those of you who have experimented with Bleak Watcher, as well as consumption of your Arc Grenade in general. For fragments, we're going to go with Facet of Purpose. Facet of Purpose is the reason that I am picking Storm Trance over Winter's Wrath. When you pick up an Orb of Power, you accumulate stacks of Bolt Charge. Bolt Charge can be discharged at max stacks either through the Bleak Watcher turret or when you consume your Arc Grenade and get your Arc Soul, which again, we're going to go over exactly why we're using our Arc Grenade with our exotic armor. So this is the single reason why I believe that Storm Trance gets the nod here. Next up, we got Facet of Awakening, rapidly defeating targets with light or darkness damage or super final blows, generates an elemental pickup of the matching damage type. This is a no-brainer. No matter what kind of damage we're outputting, we want that elemental pickup, and we're going to be getting a number of them. We're going to be generating Fire Sprites, which grant grenade energy. We're going to be generating Ionic Traces, which grant ability energy in general. And we're also going to be generating stasis shards, a small shard of stasis matter. It's collected and restores melee energy. So we're going to be constantly refreshing our abilities with any of these 3 elemental pickups. Next up, we've got Facet of Balance, rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. We are going to be generating a ton of both with our dual turret setup, as well as the weapons we are going to be using. Last but not least, in this one, I fully expect a little debate on Facet of Ruin. Increase the size and damage of the burst when you shatter a stasis crystal or frozen target, and increases the area of effect of solar ignitions. Now, this one I kind of go back and forth on because this build does play pretty aggressive, so I've regularly swapped this out with Facet of Protection, for example, which will give you increased resistance with combatants, and while transcendent, the effect is of course increased. That one would probably be the only one that I would substitute this out with. It does change the stat distribution a little bit, but I think one of those 2 is probably going to be the way to go. The only other one, man, and I really struggle to say this, would possibly be Facet of Courage. Your Arc, Solar, and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted by darkness debuffs. Your Arc Soul, your Sentient Soul, would technically qualify because if it's firing at the same target as your Bleak Watcher turret, that is a darkness debuff, and that is a light ability. So one of those 3 options should take the cake in the finale here of your aspects. You only get 4, so you got to make them count. So kind of play around, find out which one works best for you. Let me know in the comments, but let's keep it moving. For stat distribution, I'm going to recommend that you focus on Discipline, not Discipline anymore, Grenade, Melee, Super, and then Weapons in that order. Some might be looking at this and going, well, Durf, why is your grenade only at 80 instead of 100? Why do you have melee so high? Well, I have melee so high for a couple of reasons, but the number one reason is Incinerator Snap is a one and done. It's not Arcane Needle, which stacks up to 3 times. So I do want increased melee regeneration, and as opposed to the grenade regeneration, because as you see over here, your grenade stat at where I've got it at 80 still gives you 130% grenade energy regeneration from all sources, and your grenade ability cooldown is virtually almost a minute. If you did top this out at 100, it would be almost right, literally right at a minute, if not even just a touch above or below that. But for what we're going to be doing, which is going to be running and gunning and relying on our turrets to help clear the battlefield, grenade at about an 80 is going to suit you just fine with this build. Your melee, on the other hand, at 41 seconds and melee energy regeneration at 190% is going to be even more beneficial, because after you pop your Sentient Soul and your Stasis Turret, you're also going to be able to snap your fingers and scorch those same targets, taking advantage of bonus tick damage, which is what we're going to be all about. The weapon stat, hey, look, you're already going to get a bonus to your weapon damage, which I'll go over here in a second, but you're going to get on top of that an additional 7.9%, and the reloading and handling at 5.3%. That's probably not even going to matter to you with the weapons that we're going to use, but it's just a nice little bump. The only thing you may have to negotiate, and again, we have a fix for that because of Devour being active already, is our health stat. Our health stat orb, health per orb pickup is going to be 24.5. I typically would recommend this to be at about a 50, 25% of your total health. However, you're going to be printing orbs of power, and it's probably time that I move on over to weapons to explain how this is all going to synergize before getting into the armor. Our weapons of choice are going to be very straightforward. Number one on the list is going to be Veiled Threat. I highly recommend crafting this with attrition orbs and headstone. Now, if you don't have this weapon, headstone is going to be pivotal, as well as it just being a stasis weapon in general. So if you have Veiled Threat, this build is going to work very well. You're going to be able to print orbs of power with attrition orbs, and the headstone enhanced trait is going to spawn those stasis crystals, which of course is going to cause huge area damage at the tune of 720 rounds per minute. You don't really need a backup mag because your mag is already at 49, so I recommend throwing on a counterbalance. If you can control the recoil, you could always swap this out for abundant ammo. You could always swap this out for synergy. You could always swap this out for ballistics and or tactical. Pick your poison. You can't go wrong with this weapon. Next up is going to be Polaris Lance. Now, I was talking about bonus weapon damage earlier, and you see this little featured exotic little emblem right here. This means that when you come down to your implement of curiosity, you see energy slot weapon damage plus 10% right off the bat. So as you land those precision shots on those majors and or bosses, you're going to get additional 10% weapon damage. And yes, that includes when this thing pops off and gives you those scorching targets, those scorching hits. 4 precision hits lands a delayed solar explosive round that scorches targets for your next shot. And you can just pound those into a boss or a major over and over to the tune of a plus 10% damage boost because this is a featured exotic. So normally I would not entertain the dual kinetic damage style setup. I would probably have a special weapon here or a special weapon here, but this is going to make up for it because of the bonus 10% damage, in my humble opinion. And not to mention, this does encompass, again, what I think Ozzy Osbourne, cold as ice as well as fire at the same time. Our heavy weapon is going to also be up for debate. I prefer Apex Predator because I can take advantage of the siphon mods. Reconstruction and bipod are awesome. However, you could make an argument for this to be either an arc launcher or possibly the Hula Bulu. I think I just said that right, the grenade launcher. Or you can pick something else that encompasses what rounding out Blizzard of Oz would be in your mind. But Apex Predator, one of the best in the business, still does ridiculous damage, as you saw in the intro video. And of course, it is instant burst damage, which I think is important here because these two weapons up here, you're going to take a little bit of time with getting your DPS, especially if you're pinned down and just using Polaris Lance to whittle down the enemies that are pinning you down. For the armor setup, we of course have Getaway Artists. Consuming your Arc Grenade grants an Arc Soul and amplifies you. We're going to be taking advantage of our Arc Soul on a very frequent basis, and when you pop this, you are going to get your Stasis Turret at the same time. So 2 turrets constantly helping you mow down the battlefield thanks to Getaway Artists. For mods, for the helmet, I've just got a melee mod, but you can put on whatever you want. Heavy Ammo Finder, I've also got the Thermodynamic Siphon and Powerful Friends. Collecting that Orb of Power causes nearby allies to increase their current armor charge. If you are running in a fire team regularly, your friends will thank you. For the Getaway Artist mods, I've got 2 fonts, Melee font as well as Grenade font, which is why I'm not too worried that my Grenade is only at a T8. I'm going to be able to take advantage of a plus 30 per the first orb pickup, and it scales up from there. I rounded it out with a heavy-handed so that my Incinerator Snap can generate an Orb of Power, which only left me 1 energy mod left to round it out to 10 energy, so I just threw on a minor melee mod. For the chest, go ahead and spec into whatever elemental ammo you need to. For me personally right now, it's solar ammo generation, but if you did have a stasis heavy weapon on here, you would switch it over to stasis. Pick your 2 elemental resistances and go ahead and throw on whatever general armor mod that you need to round out. For the legs, I have Absolution, Invigoration, and Innervation, a pretty standard setup. You could make the argument for putting on something else in here, maybe a second Innervation right here, but I think because I want to take advantage of both my melee and my grenade regularly, these two take the cake. Go ahead and round out your armor with whatever mod you need to spec into to balance yourself out. In the class item, I have, of course, Bomber, because I want my grenade back as fast as possible, even when I use my class ability. I have Reaper, so I can generate another orb of power when I pick up after using my class ability. And instead of having the class font, I have instead time dilation. The class font is a staple in most Warlock builds. However, in this case, because I'm already running two fonts, I'll forego the class ability font, and I will instead increase the decay rate, or increase the lasting effect of my armor charges with time dilation, and of course round myself out with the melee mod. In this instance, you can see that's what I had to pick for this to get to my stats where I wanted them to be. But again, your armor might be different since we're in the farming status, or the farming stages of our builds to begin with. As far as armor archetype, if you can swing it, I highly recommend Last Discipline and Tech Sec. Last Discipline, if you can get two pieces of this in the archetype that you want. Final blows with primary ammo weapons grant your primary ammo weapons temporary increase reload speed. And that's going to be key since we're using double primary damage weapons. Tech Sec, though, if you can swing two or maybe four pieces, you're really going to love it. You deal increased kinetic damage to combatant shields, overshields, vehicles, and constructs. Constructs include barricades, turrets, stasis, crystals, and other objects created in the field. And 4, defeating powerful combatants and breaking a combatant shield with kinetic damage releases a disoriented kinetic shockwave. So if by chance, yes, I am aware I'm not using a kinetic specific weapon, but I am dealing kinetic damage, which would qualify, at least as far as I know, maybe you know something different, let me know in the comments so that I'm not communicating something incorrect. If I kill that enemy with non-precision kinetic damage, that still counts as kinetic damage, which could theoretically release a disoriented kinetic shockwave. For the artifact, we went with Anti-Barrier Scout and Pulse, of course, because we've got our Polaris Lance. It is also important to make sure you have the Overload Rapid Fire. Uninterrupted fire from your equipped auto rifles will stun Overload champs. This is by far my most favorite perk to have because I love me some auto rifles. In the second column, we've got Rapid Precision Rifling. Rapid precision hits or final blows with scout rifles grants them increased reload and reduced incoming flinch. When you are laying into that major and or that boss with your Polaris Lance, you're going to have increased reload speed, and the boss shooting at you or hitting you will reduce your flinch as well. Next up, we got one with Frost. While Frost armor is active, stasis weapons gain increased reload speed and stability. Stasis swords gain increased guard resistance. One with Frost makes sense here because the majority of my ad clear is going to come from my stasis weapon, which means Flame, Fiber, and Freeze take advantage of this artifact perk. Combines the Solar and Stasis Siphon mods into one. So one mod, multiple weapon elements to be able to generate those orbs of power. In the third column, Fever and Chill. Rapid precision hits with solar weapons grants Radiant. Rapid precision hits with stasis weapons grants Frost armor. So we're going to be taking advantage of both of these on a regular basis. Radiant, of course, gives you bonus weapon damage and ability damage, and the Frost armor gives you damage reduction. Frost Renewal gets the nod here. While you have Frost armor, taking critical damage releases a burst that freezes nearby combatants and grants Frost armor to you and nearby allies. This one, I'm not in love with it as much as I am some of the other artifact mods. However, this one makes the most sense in this column. I don't have a sidearm. I'm not dealing with Strand. And I mean, I don't really care about my class ability energy regeneration in this build. So this one gets the nod. Very rarely am I ever going to be at critical damage, But on the few instances that I will be, in case I'm playing recklessly, Frost Renewal will hopefully clear out a little bit of space for me so that I can pop my class ability and get my cure back. In the fourth column, we're going to go with Cauterized Darkness. Stasis or Strand debuff non-boss combatants take increased solar damage from all sources. This is going to be particularly useful if you are picking enemies off with your Polaris Lance. You're going to have your Stasis turret just shooting everywhere, and as those combatants get hit by that darkness debuffed stasis matter, you are going to be able to deal increased solar damage with not only your Polaris Lance, but also your Apex Predator. Next up, we got Elemental Coalescence. Defeating targets has the chance to create an elemental pickup matching your equipped super element. This one I go back and forth on, because you do get ionic traces from killing combatants with your sentient soul. You could also make the argument of putting shoulder to shoulder on here. This would probably be my other one, unless you are going to be dealing with champs regularly, then Elemental Days would obviously take the cake over all those three options. In the fifth column, you'll notice I only have 11 to 12, but Shield Crush is a no-brainer here. We are going to be amplified as well as having Frost Armor on a regular basis. So we're going to benefit from this in two ways. When you have Frost Armor, your melee recharges faster and deals increased damage. Boom, bonus number one. When you are amplified, your grenade charges faster and deals increased damage. Boom, half a bonus for that, because I'm not using my grenade to deal increased damage, but my grenade is going to recharge faster, which means I can get more sentient souls. When I unlock this 12th mod slot, I'm going to have some decisions to make. The obvious choice would be to put Radiant Shrapnel on. Dealing sustained weapon damage while Radiant or defeating a Scorch combatant with the weapon causes the target to release solar projectiles that deal damage and Scorch on impact. That's the better one of these two. However, I'm not using a add clear solar weapon. So I think instead what's going to end up taking the case is going to be Frigid Glare. While Frost Armor's active stasis precision final blows cause combatants to release a freezing burst. This is going to further increase your potency with your stasis auto rifle in your kinetic slot, and you're going to be able to take advantage of it a lot more than you would with Radiant Shrapnel. Now, if it was reversed and you had a solar add clear weapon and you had something else in the kinetic slot, let's just say like Aegir Scepter, or possibly maybe even Wicked Implement, you could make the case that Radiant Shrapnel would take the cake here. But when you get these unlocked, you're only going to get two selections. Shield Crush is the obvious number one. You should probably have that on at all times, because regardless of what your buff is, you're going to be able to take advantage of either melee or your grenade recharging faster. But the second one is going to be dependent on if you're speccing more into stasis or into solar. So just keep that in mind. So one of the reasons I think you should try this build is, hey, Blizzard of Oz was an amazing album, and Ozzy Osbourne was, of course, an amazing artist. But furthermore, this is going to be an easy-to-use build that requires virtually no effort. You only really have to do one thing, and that's consume your grenade on a regular basis. Your Getaway Artist will help you generate additional grenade ability energy back, and your Incinerator Staff is going to inflict a ton of Scorch, which means you're going to be able to take advantage of multiple buffs as well as multiple debuffs at any given time, while also giving yourself Frost Armor and Radiant on a frequent basis. This is not by any means a brand new build. This build has been around forever. It might be slightly modified now, because now our Bleak Watcher turret aspect has only got 2 fragment slots as opposed to the 3 it had in seasons previous. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you are any less powerful. The stat distribution is going to be up for debate here. Look, it is what it is right now. The beginning stages, most of us are still trying to go that power grind up to 200, 300, 400. There's very few out there who are at that 400 power right now. In fact, I don't know if there's maybe more than 1% of the community that's at that 400 even right now. It might even be less. But the fact remains that this build in general can carry you through virtually all the portal activities, including the Pinnacle Ops when you get there. You can deal area damage, you can take care of bosses, you have an unlimited ammo, good, semi-good DPS weapon in Polaris Lance, taking advantage of Scorch and Ignitions, and then of course you got your Apex Predator, which you should hopefully never ever run out of ammo for. And like I said, Veiled Threat is very easy to control. It's basically the stasis version of Rufus Fury. So I think everybody wins here with a build set up like this, although you can customize the weapons to kind of fit the idea of the build to your needs. But because we need our grenade, it's important to make sure you're doing most of your ad clear with a dark energy weapon like Veiled Threat. So if you did find anything helpful with this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you know a Guardian out there who's looking for their first build and maybe likes Ozzy Osbourne as well and wants to pay tribute to him as well, go ahead and share this video with them or send them my way. My goal is to help as many people as possible. As always, I will have a dim link in the description. And if you guys are looking for a non-toxic gaming community, I'll have my Discord link in the description as well. It is filled with a lot of good-hearted folks. There is no drama, no nonsense in there. It is just good-hearted, like-minded people who just want to help each other get better in this game and, of course, reach that higher tier threshold that we all are currently searching for. Just a bunch of great-hearted people in there. And shout out to my Discord members for making the community so non-toxic that I can advertise it on virtually every build video that I do. So the Blizzard of Oz Prismatic Warlock build, I hope you guys like this build. I had a lot of fun making it, although it is not a brand new build. There are some brand new things that we are incorporating into this build. For instance, one less fragment slot in our Aspect Bleak Watcher turret. That's going to be an adjustment for some. I don't necessarily agree that it should have gone down to 2 slots as opposed to 3, but this build still is very useful, and with the artifact, you can take advantage of virtually everything you have in this build. Frost Armor, Radiant, increased grenade and melee regeneration. I mean, what is not to love? True, using Storm Trance as your main super may not be the most ideal thing in terms of super potency and length, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with using Storm Trance, even in its reduced state, just because you're not using Crown of Tempest. It's still viable. You can still throw out that jolting shockwave. It still clears out adds as well as does significant damage to majors, and it does good tick damage overall to the boss if you're able to stand in front of the boss like this one right here, and it all flows very evenly well. You are going to be able to proc Transcendence regularly because you're constantly switching between light and darkness energy damage. So it all balances out in the end. And yeah, I would like to have one more fragment available to utilize with this build as in seasons past that I did. But with the addition of the new artifact, of course, the way that damage and all those things, plays a role with weapons now, all of these builds that we all loved in seasons past are all going to be changing. And right now, like this build right here, I think it's for the better. And I know I'm going to get some hate in the comments for saying that, but I really like this build. I like what Destiny is right now. So hopefully you guys find this video helpful. I will see you guys next time. Take care.